Diminished sales, massive price drops, and a union strike all in 1 year. Can Jeep actually survive this, or are they sinking and going down? Today, we're going to dive into that, and we're going to find out just what's happening with Jeep here on Mud Tire Tech Talk. If you're new to this segment, this is our video podcast that's meant for you to just have something to listen to while you're wrenching in the shop. Now, before we get into it, be sure to go down and hit the subscribe. If you're not subscribed, click the notification bell so that you don't miss any future episodes. Now, diving into today's topic, what we're going to be talking about is Jeep. Are they in trouble? What is really going on behind closed doors? Now, I have all the statistics for 2023. I've been looking over these, and to be completely honest, I don't feel overly confident about the status of Jeep going into 2024. Now, what I'm going to talk about first is the fact that for the entire truck and SUV market, sales for 2023 trucks and SUVs are up 13.4% for the total year as compared to 2022 sales. Now that means that overall the market share for truck and SUVs, people are spending more money in total than they did in 2022, meaning that the market should be showing a rebound for just about everybody as long as things are going smoothly. Well, in Jeep's case, they're not looking so smooth. Jeep statistics came back at a total of negative 6% sales compared to the 2022 year. Now, in the final quarter, they did show a 7% increase in sales as compared to the 2022 year market sales. So they did show an increase in sales, and I think I know why that happened, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But in a total, for 2023, their sales are down 6%, whereas in a whole, the market for these vehicles should be going up. So, why are they going down? Well, we'll look into that a little more. But like I mentioned just a second ago, their market here at the final quarter went up by 7%. And the reason I think this happened is easy to see. They were introducing these massive price drops by 15% almost all the way across the board. It's incredible. I mean, it looked really good on paper when you're sitting there looking at these advertisements saying 15% off on a brand new Jeep, on a brand new Gladiator, Wrangler. It's really tempting to go grab one. And it must have worked for a number of people, but not enough to really boast their sales fully for the whole year. And on top of those 15% off deals, they were also offering special APRs on financing through Chrysler Capital. So they were doing a lot to try to push these vehicles out the door. And the number one thing I saw being pushed online all over the place was the Gladiator. They were doing everything they could to try to incentivize you to go buy a Gladiator, even so much as trying to explain to you, and they had a website fully breaking down how the Gladiator could work as a business expense and how you can write off up to 80% of this vehicle as a business expense. So you can see that they were really doing a hard time trying to get these things out the door, and I really don't think they really made that happen at all. So why didn't that 15% off incentive really do as well as they needed it to do? Well, the thing I'm thinking of is the fact that they irritated a lot of buyers back a few years ago when they started making these huge price hikes on the Gladiator specifically, as opposed to when they first introduced the Gladiator in 2020. It was one of the best deals on the market for a mid-size truck, and with really nice specs to go along with that price point, it was an attractive offer, and a lot of people were buying. So Jeep naturally thought that they could increase those prices and increase sales as well, and it didn't work out in their favor. Now they're paying for it, and they're trying so hard to catch up. But in 2023, as a total, it was obvious that they were not meeting the sales that they needed on that Gladiator. As a matter of fact, their total sales for the year on the Gladiator was 55,100 units in 2023. To the average person, that might sound like a decent amount of units sold, and we're all seeing Gladiators on the road, so obviously they're getting out there. Let's compare that to the direct rival of the Gladiator, the Toyota Tacoma. That's probably one of the closest rivals for that truck. Toyota Tacoma sold in 2023 was 234,700 units for 2023. That is a massive jump over the Gladiator. So it is clear they are not converting enough Toyota enthusiasts over to becoming Jeep owners. Not even close. And as a matter of fact, brand loyalty was one thing I even saw in the news articles that's become an increasing issue with Jeep this year. So we'll get into more of that later, but going on through that 55,000, again, seems like a decent number, but it's clearly not enough because Wranglers sold is 156,580 units. So obviously, far more people are still choosing those Wranglers over the Gladiator, so they're not getting those out. As a matter of fact, the Ford Maverick, a truck that is not even a good truck. It's not even a good SUV. It's an economy car with a truck bed. It's nearly an El Camino, but that's not what we're talking about. I hate the Maverick. But the Ford Maverick, a truck that's not even that great of a truck. It's not even that great of an SUV, but they were able to sell 94,000 units in 2023. The Ford Maverick outsold the Gladiator. So that's my point I'm trying to make, is that when it comes to final numbers for the full year, Jeep is not doing well when it comes to the Gladiator. As a matter of fact, it's not holding up its end of the bargain in the Jeep name. So it really worries me of what the future might actually be on that Gladiator. And to make things even worse, they had invested all this money into the EcoDiesel many years back. They revitalized it, revamped it, brought it back in the Gladiator and the Wrangler and in the Ram, and hoping that they got all the kinks worked out. And it was a huge hit when it first launched. And then just like clockwork, problems started popping up. The EcoDiesel did not sell well. As a matter of fact, it was a $6,000 upcharge, which really stifled people wanting to actually invest in that engine. Needless to say, with the EcoDiesel going away at the end of 2023, they didn't get it right again. As great as I love that engine, as much as I love that engine, it didn't meet the standards of the general public. So the EcoDiesel is gone. Stellantis' investment in that EcoDiesel did not pay off in the long run, and I'm afraid they're going to pay for that as well. Now, moving on to the second point, UAW strikes and Jeep went missing from the car show segments in 2023. Now, what this is about is the UAW, the Union for Automotive Workers, went on strike, and this directly affected multiple automakers, GM, Ford, Mopar, or Stellantis. Everybody was really affected by this, but needless to say, for a company that was having a struggling year in the first part, this is not good news for them. Without a doubt, no matter what the final verdict was on the UAW strikes, which they're coming to a close now, and pretty much all production is back to normal because they've reached settlements. But no matter what these settlements are, without a doubt, wherever Mopar was at before, they are one step lower now because they're not going to be having the same profits. They had to have come to some resolution with a better deal for these workers. Not going to say that that deal didn't need to happen and that these workers weren't entitled to better conditions, better pay. But what I'm saying is that for a company that's already struggling, it may be hard for them to keep working in the future with more requirements from their workers. So that is definitely a hard issue for a company that's struggling in this year. Then what really set me off is right after the UAW went on strike, immediately after this, Mopar backed out of all of its car shows for the year. Now, I'm talking about if you watched any coverage or you were able to attend SEMA, you're going to notice that Jeep usually comes in with a big name at things like the Chicago Auto Show, SEMA. This is primetime advertisement for Jeep. They love to come out and they love to show new products, their highest end vehicles. They usually come out and set up these massive obstacle courses for you to come out and have a good time on, and they do a really good job of pushing these products and converting new Jeep owners out of the participants to these auto shows. This year, they canceled everything. At the last minute, SEMA was canceled. I was there. I was covering the event, and I was looking forward to seeing Jeep here, and only to find out shortly before going, they canceled. Now, the word is that they canceled because they are doing massive budget cuts across the company to try to save as much as they can to try to recoup their finances from a dismal year. And without a doubt, if they're cutting their budgets on promoting their products, they're obviously not on the top tier and doing great. As far as I'm concerned, that's a bad sign. Now, number 3. As of November 1st, the CEO for Jeep, Christian Meunier, was replaced by Maserati's Antonio Filosa. Now, this is a huge shakeup because if your company is doing well and going in the direction that you think it should be going, then you would not go in and force a CEO change to another person if everything's going the way the higher-ups expected and wanted it to go. So this alone tells me that a lot was going wrong and they weren't able to turn it around the way they hoped. So they made this announcement in September, and as of November 1st, it became official. Now, from what I've heard in the community is that Christian Meunier was a true diehard Jeep guy, and everyone kind of believes that he had a heavy hand in keeping Jeep truly off-road worthy, off-road capable, and increasing the off-road parts segment offered by Jeep. And so the big worry is that someone from Maserati may come in and make all these changes to make the Wrangler, the Gladiator, a little more docile, a little more roadworthy and road-friendly. And as great as that may be for the general public, the off-road community, if you start putting independent front suspension under a Wrangler or Gladiator, if you start changing and taking away all the true kind of a rock crawl essence, the hardcoreness that is Jeep, then you're watering down the brand. And if that's something that we have to worry about that's coming from this CEO change, that could be a death toll for the Jeep brand, in my opinion. I really think that even though the Jeep has never been a luxury vehicle driving on the highway, and it's not, it excels off-road. It doesn't excel on-road, and if you're a Jeep guy, you just kind of understand that. I really worry about what changes may come from this shakeup. Now, from what I've understood, Christian Meunier is actually still going to retain a position inside the Jeep brand, but he will no longer be the CEO. So we're going to have to wait and see how this affects the brand. Now, with all these 3 things talked about, there's one more thing I want to mention, and that's the fact that Jeep went way out in left field by bringing out a really high-priced luxury SUV called the Grand Wagoneer. And man, I loved when they brought back that Grand Wagoneer name. I was so excited. But then you saw the price point and you realize that Jeep is going way out and trying to make this massive, just truly luxury vehicle. And they did an amazing job with it, except for one problem. And that's the fact that it's over $100,000 to get your hand on a Grand Wagoneer. And with a lot of the details about the Grand Wagoneer, I can see where that price point comes from. And they did a great job of making a high-priced luxury vehicle. But when you go to a dealership and you check out a Grand Wagoneer, you can go a little bit farther down the lot and you can go check out a Grand Cherokee L. And I'm telling you, these 2 things look so much alike that it leads to probably a lot of people going, why am I spending $120,000 for this one when I can spend $60,000 on that one? Now, I don't know if that's the exact right price, but I know there is a huge price drop when it goes to the Grand Cherokee L to the Grand Wagoneer. And if you spend $50,000, $60,000 more on a luxury vehicle, most of the time people really want that to stand out and look like the luxury that you paid for, not be almost similar to the less pricey version that's right over here next door to it. So I really think that the Grand Wagoneer is in a point of flux where if they don't figure out what to do with this thing and get either the pricing right or get their market really pinned down on who's really buying the Grand Wagoneer, I think this is going to be another huge loss for Jeep. Now, with all that being said, my biggest worry out of all of this, I always believe that Jeep will survive and thrive. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's changed hands multiple times through the decades, but Jeep still thrives and pushes on. My biggest worry out of all these statistics is the Gladiator. I really think out of all of this, the Gladiator is the most at stake right now out of everything I see. Now, the reason for that is with these low sales numbers, and those low sales numbers have nothing to do with the amount that they're able to produce. Instead, it's because they're sitting on the lot. The Gladiator tends to stay nearly 300 days on a lot before it finds a home. That's almost a year sitting on a lot where it cannot find a buyer. So it's obvious that the Gladiator is underperforming, especially compared to the Wrangler, which has a tight following. People love the Wrangler, and I don't think it's ever going to go anywhere. The Wrangler has never been a mass market vehicle. When they introduced 4 doors, that was the most mass market it ever became, because a lot of people who always dreamed of wanting that Wrangler finally could have it and still carry the kids to school and do the things that you needed out of a daily vehicle. Well, that has still continued to today with the JLU, and it does a great job. It's even more family friendly, and it's still more capable than ever. And to me, the Gladiator is just like that. It hits that market where people need a truck, you need an SUV, you want to go off-roading, and it does all of these so well. But I think Jeep has just sabotaged the Gladiator with their pricing. I think they tried too hard to keep raising the prices and pushing this vehicle, and no one wants to pay this much money for their off-roading truck that still you can, and let's be honest, you can buy better trucks for the same price. You can buy a really nice full-size truck for the same price of what they're wanting for a fully loaded Rubicon. So I really think that Jeep has made some really bad choices in the past years, and I think it's all coming in and hitting them really hard right here in 2023. But with that said, do you want to see more about the Gladiator? Do you want to know more about the EcoDiesel? Let me know down below. If there's any topics that you think you would be interested in hearing about, let me know about down below. I would love to cover more topics like these. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.